When you're building a business, it's about a lot more than a great product or service. Get more with Northwest Registered Agent at northwestregisteredagent.com/paid achiever.
You know you want to start a business. What you may not know is how to make it a reality. GoDaddy got you. Just visit GoDaddy.com to get started. That's GoDaddy.com. Premium features require a paid subscription. See terms on site.
Can you imagine a work world in which we told the truth, in which we were clear with each other and we set really good expectations? Oh man, I think that would be great. I think a lot of the intractable problems that we face at work and we all talk about and obsess over and don't seem to be able to budge might actually budge, like burnout and chronic stress and gender disparity. Today, I have a really fascinating conversation on these big boulders at work that we're trying to move with Jessica Neal, who is the former chief talent officer at Netflix and is now a venture capitalist. She is funny and cool and honest. One of the things that we talk about, which I think is really important and something I struggle with, is in a high-performing culture, what is the right balance, right, between keeping people motivated and working from a place of stress, good stress, while acknowledging our very, very human need to be praised, to be congratulated, to take a breath and say, we did a good job. So Jessica and I, we get into it. Enjoy. Jessica, welcome. I thought I would take advantage of having such a, hugely skilled and experienced talent executive to ask questions that I almost see as like banging your head against the wall questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is all we've talked about for a really long time, and yet it doesn't seem to be getting any better. So clearly, what we're doing isn't working, kind of thing.
Yes. It's a little monotonous, right?
Yeah. But first I wanted to ask you um how life is after leaving. I know you work at a venture firm right now. I have to
Yeah.
imagine that's very different than working in a huge corporation. How is life post Netflix and post corporate?
It's interesting and good. It did it did take a bit for me to adjust, right?
Mhm.
Because I think when you have a job like I had at Netflix and we called me the chief talent officer, but really I was the CHRO. It's a huge job and you have 10,000 people around the world and you're working in every time zone and up until COVID was traveling around the world and on a plane probably 2 to 3 weeks out of every month.
Wow.
And yeah, and, it just doesn't it it didn't stop, like, I was very scheduled. And
Mhm.
so and, but I liked it, it was fun. But it was a lot. And then leaving, I think there was withdrawals from that? I don't
Yeah, I bet.
Because it was like, "Oh, I should be doing something or I should be going somewhere," but, I had more flexibility and I hadn't really had that before. And then, once I adjusted, it was good. I have a young kid still, he's 6, and at the time he was a bit younger, and so I got to spend a bit more time with him, and that was a
Yeah.
blessing. And then being in venture is it's super fun, and we're talking to companies all day long, and at one point, you're talking to a company that might 3D print rockets, and then the next conversation, you're talking to a company that does, HR software and AI sourcing for candidates. And so the breadth of problems that kind of get thrown at you is just really interesting. And so that's super stimulating. And then the opportunity to really work with founders who are trying to make the world better. I mean, that's
Mhm.
just fun. And so, after the adjustment, then it was like, okay, this is great. This is manageable, and I'm still really, really busy, but it's just a different kind of busy than what you would have at a executive role at like a Netflix or Google or anywhere.
Big.
Yeah.
I'm sure as a talent person, you think a lot about fit. What is it do you think about you, your unique set of skills and talents and superpowers that made you a good fit to have a job like that? The pressure, the demands, the scheduling, right? What about you works in that role?
That's a good question. I think over time, I I was I loved being a leader,
Mm,
right? And I really felt like it gave me a purpose, right? To be a developer, someone that could inspire people to see things that they couldn't see on their own and push them to places they didn't think that they could go. And I loved that. So I think I got promoted to be a leader very young in my career, and it
mm,
was something that I really loved to do. And then, as I grew in my own career and became an executive, I think I was able to learn how to compartmentalize. Like, or I was very diligent about the hills I was going to die on, because there were so many I could, right? And you can't solve everything, and there's only so much of you that can go around. Right? So you have to pick the very important things and focus on those, and be okay with the other things being okay or not great. And then in my role, I would say you just really have to get okay with not pleasing hardly anyone ever.
that's a superpower.
Yeah, I mean, you have to develop a thick skin.
Yeah, I would bet. I
Yeah,
would bet. I would bet.
because one day you're their favorite person, and the next day, you're not. And you're the person that has to bring wonderful news, and you're also the person that's bring terrible news.
Mhm. And I
So
think also just, hearing you talk about sort of that discipline and being able to prioritize, clearly you were good at prioritization, of not getting overly probably emotionally attached to things that weren't worth it. Like those are very hard things for a lot of people. I could never do that job. I'd be a wreck. I'd be crying on the floor.
there were days. There were days, but I wasn't always great. But I learned how to get better, and I really did have to care less about the things that didn't matter,
Yeah.
or that they weren't going to matter in the long run. It's not that they didn't matter at all, you know what I mean? But it wasn't going to move the needle. It wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
And so, my energy was better spent on the things that could have a massive impact versus minor.
It's a superpower. Okay, so I want to talk about our stubborn barriers to a
Yeah.
healthy workplace. And I've listed a bunch. I'm just going to read them for the audience so they know what's coming up. The first is stress and burnout. The second thing that won't budge is gender disparity. The third thing is that most people don't like their jobs and engagement numbers or however we measure it, meh. And then the fifth is of course what I'm obsessed with, which is mental health at work. And then the last one we talked on a little bit at the beginning, which is spending too much time on things that you're not great at and that drain you, right? Like
Mhm.
working away from your genius.
Mhm.
We don't most people spend, I think I saw a statistic, I have this in my book, they spend like 70% of their time on stuff that isn't their strong suit at work. It's like dumb.
Yeah.
So those are the blockers. But let's dive right into stress and burnout because
Okay.
obviously, I mean, okay, I literally cannot think of a topic that is more, well, AI, but I can't think of a topic that is more discussed than
Yeah.
burnout and stress, right? But it's rising. Burnout is rising. Is there a fix for this? Chronic negative stress. You and I both are from the school that like all stress isn't bad. There's great stress. We need stress. But chronic negative stress is something we're obsessed with, but yet we can't budget at work.
I know.
Why?
The honest answer is I don't know,
Yeah.
right? I wish I did because then, we could solve it. But I think that there is a lot of undue stress that is created by individuals, us, right?
Hmm.
But there's also stress that's created by the companies that it just doesn't make sense. And so I think,
I
if
call it stupid stress.
yeah, like, when companies aren't very dialed in on things, they're not very organized, they aren't communicating with employees, people don't understand why they're doing things. I think that causes a lot of stress. I think if, one thing if I could help organizations do, because I think the majority of them don't do this well, but if they could bring clarity to their organization about why and
Mm.
what and how, um, that would solve a lot of people's stress, right? The other thing I think in a work environment that causes stress, and I have a podcast as well if anyone who wants to go listen. It's called Truth Works. But I had this gentleman on the podcast and we were talking a little bit about this. And there's this sense with like employees and leadership is like, well, they should just know how I feel. As a leader, well, they should know I'm stressed out. They don't know, right? As an employee, they should know how hard I'm working. They don't know all the time, right? And so
Mm.
I think that sometimes because that communication isn't there, that there becomes stress tensions between
Mhm.
relationships so I think communication can help with all the stress. I mean, hard work isn't going to go away,
No.
right? The pressure we put on ourselves to succeed and the fear that we have of failure, those are normal human things that aren't ever going to go away. And employees are always going to be humans, and leaders are always going to be humans. And one of the things that I think humans aren't good at is communicating.
Yeah. Or being
And
clear. We're
I
not
being,
good at being
yeah,
clear. We're not good at
no,
setting
yeah,
expectations.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're terrible at it. So I think I don't know. I don't know if that solves everything, but the pace, change, all those things, that's always going to be there. Change is inevitable. Like
Yeah.
change is is great. We need change, right? And the world is moving quickly. But I think clarity and communication is our biggest plague.
Yeah. What about burnout? I mean, is burnout is so complex. And I always say like we use burnout as an umbrella
Yeah.
term. And
Yeah.
often when we say burnout, we really mean depression and anxiety,
Sure.
like we mean
Yeah.
mental health challenges. But like
Yeah.
why are we in this sort of self-fulfilling burnout epidemic?
If I can speak just because I'm not an expert on burnout or a psychologist or anything like that,
Okay.
but I can just speak from personal
Yeah.
experience. Generally, when I was feeling anxious or burnt out, it generally had to do, if I think back on the times that I was the most anxious, it generally had to do with my heart not being in things, right?
Really?
Yeah. Like I wasn't in the moment, like I either felt like this wasn't the right thing to do and that was getting at me, or I was just not excited about the things I was working on or who I was working on them with.
Hmm.
And but the times that I was the most happy were probably the times that I was working the hardest. So I think like burnout is, to your point, it's an umbrella of things, right? But and everybody's like, oh, I'm burned out, I'm tired, and then but when you're working on something really hard and challenging with people that you really like and you learn from and who challenge you and who push you and hold you accountable to being your best self, right? Like it's it's really fun. And I didn't care about how many hours I was working. I came home energized. I came
Yeah.
home feeling great. And then I was tired too. I was, but I didn't mind that I was tired because I
Yeah.
really loved what I was doing. So I don't know if it has to do with that, but also like there are times when you're not going to love everything about work, and I think you have to take a step back and think about, is this situation that I'm in a temporary situation? Because again, we all know that change is inevitable. So, is it just the moment that we're in as a team, as a company? Is it just, the moment I'm in personally, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Versus is this a terrible place, right? That I shouldn't be, and it's more of a plague, right?
Hmm.
And so if it's more of that, and you have the privilege to switch to change, you can. Some people don't have that privilege, and I understand that. But there's always another place to go, right? And um, so you can just say, I don't want to be here anymore,
Hmm.
right? And you can take the steps to do that. But I think again, we have to be self-reflective when we're in, when we're saying, oh gosh, I'm so burnt out. And really like take a step back and look at the situation and say, am I kind of creating this? Or is this, something that's temporary? Right? Or is this just a terrible thing and I need to say goodbye? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
That's how I think about it. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert.
No,
So
I know, but
people,
I would imagine like burnout and stress to me, it's like it's in the water,
yeah,
and it's something that almost feels inevitable for a lot of people. And I'm sort of like a why person, and I'm always like, why?
yeah,
Is that the human condition? Is it the way we're working? Is it just that the pace of change and we're so overwhelmed? Our nervous, I think
yeah,
our nervous systems are actually dysregulated, I think a lot of times.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
also think that there's just like with burnout and stress, and maybe stress more than burnout, there's just a lot of uncertainty in the world,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think when, again, it goes back to that clarity. Like if you can get clarity on things, then you're probably less stressed, right?
Oh, for
Because
sure.
so I think searching for, clarity is the thing that's most helpful to me.
I reduce anxiety through clarity, right?
Uh-huh.
I think that
Uh-huh.
there's so much interpersonal anxiety and team anxiety when things don't feel clear and we don't know what our leader wants from us. And they say, well, I need this perfect and ASAP. And we're like, but what does perfect and ASAP mean? Sometimes it's very basic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
totally.
No, I mean, and there was times when in my career growing up, I would have panic attacks, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, like panicking. I wasn't even, I was sleeping. I wasn't even thinking about work, but, I sort of learned to control that feeling and that extreme reaction by calming myself down by asking questions and getting clarity,
Mm.
you know?
What would trigger a panic for you?
I mean, like, they would sometimes they would just come out of nowhere. Like, there was one
Mm.
time, my husband and I had been, a nice long weekend together in Carmel, and we were driving home, and my whole body just started shaking. And, I think it was, I don't know, I think it was self-induced. Like, work wasn't calling me. Like, I'm a very, competitive person and I like to win. And so maybe it was just in my head that I wasn't doing enough or could do more, or what if I don't do great in that presentation next week? It could have all just been in my head, me, and then it just kind of came out of my body. you know?
Yeah, totally.
But I was like, I think I had, you know, I don't know, a few of them. This had gone on for like a year or something, and maybe I'd had like 6 or 7 panic attacks.
Oh
And
gosh.
and I was just like, okay, like I'm not gonna do this anymore. I just kind of like told myself like this isn't okay. Like it's not n- no nothing's bad's happening. It's all, I am creating that it's bad. And I had somebody else on the podcast the other day, and if we tell ourselves that stress is bad, guess what? It's bad.
Hmm.
Right. And so I just sort of, I think and this was way before I ever talked to this person, which I wish I would have talked to this lady before, because I could probably solved it sooner. But I do think I changed the narrative in my head about what was happening,
That's amazing.
you know. But I don't think I was like, I don't think I'd realized what I was doing in the moment. But I wanted to like tell myself like, all right, we're stopping. We're not doing this anymore because it doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And not to say that, panic attacks that people have them aren't like a real thing. It was a real thing. Like I was really panicking, but I was able to figure out a way to control it, and some people aren't. So I get that too.
Right, but to shift like the cognitive mindset, right? Of like,
Right.
I mean, I think sometimes also just it's our nervous system needing to let off like our, we've internalized so much pressure and anxiety and overwhelm, and we just like our nervous system just has a little bit of a breakdown, right?
Right.
And needs to reset, and that's the panic. But
Yeah.
it's scary.
It
You
is.
you have written, we've built these incredible companies with completely broken reward systems. We're rewiring our brains for burnout.
Yeah.
You had a post that I love that was just about how at Netflix, like, you would do something awesome and the team would really push, and, they would meet the milestone, and then they would just immediately on to the next, right? And I mean, I think, with my anxious achievers, this is a very familiar feeling. Like we think, well, if only I get to here, everything's going to be great and I can stop being so anxious. And then we get to there and it's like, oh shit, now it's on to the next. We never take that moment. So what
No.
was your lesson learned? What do you do differently now?
Are you running a business online? Instantly build trust with your customers with a domain and matching professional email from GoDaddy so people know you mean business. And there's never been a better time. Visit godaddy.com/GD now, and you can get a domain and a professional email plan for just 99 cents a month for 1 year. That's a little price for a lot of credibility. Choose the domain that's right for you and get a professional email to match. Go to godaddy.com/GD now and look legit. That's godaddy.com/GD now. New customer purchases only. Products auto renew separately. See terms on the site.
When you're building a business, it's about a lot more than a great product or service. It's about your total business identity, which is like your legal paperwork and the fact that your website is secure and state licenses. Well, Northwest Registered Agent can help you get more for your business, more privacy, more tools, more guidance. And they've been helping entrepreneurs launch and grow businesses for nearly 30 years. They're the largest registered agent and LLC service in the US with over 1,500 corporate guides who are real people who know your local laws and can help you and your business every step of the way. For just $39 plus state fees, you can get an LLC, domain name, business email, a local phone number, business address, registered agent, and compliance in just 10 clicks and 10 minutes. You can get your business formation paperwork as well. Northwest makes life easy for business owners. Don't wait. Protect your privacy, build your brand, and get your complete business identity in just 10 clicks and 10 minutes. Visit northwestregisteredagent.com slash paid achiever and start building something amazing. Get more with Northwest Registered Agent at northwestregisteredagent.com slash paid achiever.
I even tried to do it a little bit when I was there. And, Netflix was, we're such a high performing culture. And Reed, our CEO, was an engineer. That's how he grew up. And for him, talking about the things that we were good at wasn't efficient because we were already good at them. So, and engineers love efficiency. And so,
Mhm.
um, talking about what we were not good at was very efficient. And so we spent a lot of time being critical.
Mm.
And and I And it was really helpful. I mean, like we talked about all the hard things, and I think we got really a lot deeper on things than most companies do, and that built a lot of trust. It built a lot of self-awareness, it built a lot of reflection, and it built a lot of learning. Like we were like, let's learn. Like we were a learning culture. We wanted to learn from the things that we did well and the things that we didn't do well. But, it had people, I think, seriously, stressed out all the time because, it was like, we gotta be better, we gotta be better, we gotta be better. And it's like we were pretty, pretty darn good a lot of the time. And we were writing the No Rules Rules book. And the author of that book, a woman named Erin Myers, she came to me and she was, and she would often come to me after she would talk to and interview people in the company for the book. And she said, I was talking to this person and they've been with Netflix for over 10 years. And I said, okay. And I knew the person. It was a director and they were one of our like star performers, like amazing. We love this person. And she's like, do you know that they won't unpack their box that's under their desk? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, all their stuff that's would go in their desk is in a box underneath their desk because they're so afraid that they're going to be fired at any moment. And I was like, oh, it's terrible because, again, this person was one of our star performers. And so it really had me thinking about this idea of giving more love
Mhm.
to our employees. And it sounds weird to say the word love, but I do think it is love. And I started thinking about, you know, behaviors and being critical. And I'm like, okay, that's really good. We want to keep that criticality in the business. Like it's important. But also, and we want some pressure, right? And we want some fear. Some fears not bad, right? Like, but that you want good fear, right? And I think, the other thing that I thought about with behaviors is that if people don't know the things that they're uniquely good at, right? And we're not giving any like love to that, right? And we're not highlighting it in any way, then they're not going to continue to do that, right? And it's like, if this person, this director, for example, um, it's like you're really amazing at innovation, right? Like, and you remember on that the product we just launched and how you got to that point and you did all the A/B tests and then you actually picked three that were like moving the needle for the consumer. Do that again, like, and do it 10 more times because we want you and so we never were that. And so I sort of started a campaign and I think it worked a little bit, but I do think as organizations we need to think about and it's not to be overly celebratory or do things that are not part of your DNA and be somebody you're not. But I do think telling people what they're great at is really important and makes them feel good. And like, did we want that director to have their box packed? I was like, that's
That
terrible.
right, because that person is living under a threat response, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's such an interesting question that you raise, right? It's like how you well, the first of all, when I go into a company, I'm always like, what kind of people are in this room? Like if I'm with a law firm, like an elite law firm, none of the people who make it there are ever people who are going to slack off.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that. They're
Right.
not gonna take shortcuts, slack off, when the boss isn't looking, that they are wired to perform.
Yeah.
And many of us who are wired to perform, we're wired for praise.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You got to
right.
fill up that bank a little bit, and because again, the critical things are important, but they hurt,
Yeah.
you know,
They do. I mean,
and
we're all just people, right? To
we're
your
just
point.
people. Yeah. And so when somebody tells you you need to be better at something, it doesn't really matter what it is or how severe it is. Even if it's minor, it feels the same as if it's major.
Yeah. It's kind of wounding.
Hmm. And you get a bunch of wounds. So like you need some like really good, I don't know what to call it, but you need some little heart patches, little heart band-aids.
Well, I always think of that with my kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, th- they're in high school, right? Two of them. And so I don't want to just like be like gold star for you, because sometimes they don't deserve the gold star. But if they never get that hopefulness of I can get there,
Yeah.
then they're just performing out of fear,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
No, I know. I know. I have a 6-year-old, same thing. I'm always like, what's he going to tell the psychologist when he's, 25 years old? Well,
Oh my
my
God.
mom,
High performance culture.
yeah, didn't let me cry. I don't know. Suck it up.
I mean, it's such a delicate balance, right? It's
That
such a
is.
delicate balance. I loved that insight. Okay, let's talk about gender. I'm just going to say that I've been working in the women's advancement space for many decades, so I'm a little depressed. But
We all are.
we're so depressed, right? I was looking
Yeah.
at World Economic Forum and LinkedIn data indicating this is just this year, the percentage of US women hired into senior leadership roles has declined
Mm-hmm.
by over 4 points in the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
US women hold 52% of entry level positions, just 34% of vice president positions, and 27% of C suite. Now, that's come up. I remember 10 years ago, women were like 18 to 20% of C suite. So that's good,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But also, we see right now, women are leaving the workforce in droves right now, especially women of childbearing age and women of elder caregiving age.
Mm-hmm.
How the F do we fix this?
I don't know, to be honest, because if I did, I would fix it. And I've had many, many, many conversations about it. Obviously, I had to think about it a lot for
Right?
our
I'm
women
sure.
at Netflix. I had to think about it as a woman myself.
As a C-suite woman.
And look, like I had my baby when I was in the C-suite, and that was that wasn't easy to do. And anyways, well, I don't want to
Did
go
you
down
take a mat leave? I'm just curious, like, were you able to separate or did you sort of keep your hand in? How did you do it?
I did a little bit, but my hand was still in, and um, yeah, so I took like 3 months, but and my kid was in the NICU for a month,
Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
and yeah, I mean, hard place to be, but the best place to be, if anybody's had a kid in the NICU, but anywho, like yes, I was still working, you know, but I think if I roll back, I think maternity leave is a little bit of the problem, right?
Mm,
I we and look, we need to take time off, but and this was something that I thought about a lot at Netflix because I mean, at the end of the day, um, we if you are bearing a child, right? you have a lot of things that happen to your body, not only from like a hormonal perspective, but also a physical perspective, right? And so you do need to take time. But a lot of companies have moved to, and we did this in Netflix, we moved to a longer maternity policy, and you could take up to a year off, right?
Wow.
And which is great. But when you're gone for a year, guess what? The company keeps moving, right? And so I was looking at some of the women coming back, and, you know, their job would be changed or their job wouldn't be there anymore. And so I was like, well, is longer better?
Mm.
I don't know. But I look at other countries that do this at, in like in Europe, in most countries, you can get a year off. But I think that companies are more accepting of it just because
Well, women
it's just
still
what.
pay a price. I mean,
Yeah, they
their advancement is the same as it's not better than ours.
I agree, but maybe their like reintegration is better. I don't
Yeah.
know. But anyways, I think that if we could figure out, put the maternity leave time aside, because I don't know what the right answer is, but if we could figure out childcare,
Hmm.
I think that would solve a lot of problems, but nobody's going to figure it out, I don't think. But I mean, in the US in particular, it is very expensive to have childcare. And so, do you go off and work and, you know, pay for the childcare? Like, or do you stay home and, and that's a hard decision to make, And so,
It's
and even me as a woman and an executive, like, I have a very great partner and husband that I love, but I do more than him. I do the laundry, I fold, he does take out the trash,
well, that's a
which is
man job.
which is nice, but that's a man job. But I literally do everything, and I work. You know? So, the the roles I had this, woman, on the podcast, and she was like, "If they just did the laundry, it would help out a lot." And I was like, "It's kinda true," Like, "Do the laundry, man, like, come on."
Oh
But
God.
we just I don't know how to solve it, to be honest, and I think childcare cost and the government could figure out how to help with childcare. I think that would create a lot more opportunity for women. Um,
If women
outs-
are comfortable. I mean, it's weird because it's like to your point about clear expectations and clear communication, I think that at some level we have to be honest and say to women, if you feel the imperative to be with your children more, then a big corporate job might not be for you during this period. Can we create ways for you to reintegrate when you're ready?
yeah,
Because it's a terrible choice that we have to make. I mean,
it really is.
I remember for years, every time I had to get on a plane and leave my babies, it was like my heart was torn in two. It just
Yep,
every week, it felt like re-tearing my heart apart. And if someone had said to me, "Maura, this is a choice that you can make, but it's okay. Like in 7 years, you're not gonna feel this way anymore. So come on back in." But
right.
like, but
But
we
it's so
don't
hard to come back in after 7 years.
it's so hard to come back in. We make it again to the threat response. It's almost like your colleague who had the box packed. It's like if I leave, I'll never if I screw up, I'm gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I didn't. I remember telling my husband, and I was a VP at Netflix at the time, and we were talking about having children. I was like, I can't have a
Wow.
kid. Like,
Wow.
not now. Like I want to, but I can't do it right now because if I do it right now, like this career thing, I don't know. Like it's gonna.
Do you think that was true? Or was that just how you felt? Yeah.
I mean, I think look at the data. Of course, of course, it's true. you know, like I don't know. I mean, but there's certain women, that, and just like myself, I did it and I figured it out and I had a very high position. But I think you're right. It's a hard choice we have to make, and I remember when my kid was about 1 and we were coming out of COVID and we could like maybe fly again and like travel around the world. Um and my boss was like, "Okay, we'll fly to this country, then we'll go to this country, then we'll go to this country, and then we'll go to this country." And we'll be gone like 11 nights, and I was like, the look on my face must have been very obvious because he's like, "What?" And I was like, I can't go that long. Like maybe I can go like 5, 6 nights, but I don't think I can go 11 nights." And he's like, "Because of the baby?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, because of the baby." And then he was like, "Well, just bring the baby." And I was like, "No, I'm not bringing the baby." Like,
But you
no,
I mean, that's a
I could
really
have, but it
interesting.
would have been terrible.
It would
Like,
have been terrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, flying to like this country and that country with a
Yeah.
1-year-old would have been terrible. But, um, and nobody would have wanted the baby around. It was, anyways,
Yeah.
babies are wonderful, but when they're that age, like
No, not
they're
in a
tired.
meeting.
No, yeah, not I mean, yeah. So, but I mean, but it felt terrible. Like and I felt like I was not a great executive because of like being called out in that moment. Like I wasn't, willing or able to do my part, right? But and then if I have to go do it, then I'm gonna be a terrible mom. Like,
Oh, wow.
like leaving my kid for 11 nights and I don't know. Yeah.
It feels intractable
Hmm.
as long as women. And the problem is like, you're only a childbearing human for a very short period of time in the context of your career, but the ramification, I feel like, of being the one who makes the kids and being the one who tends to be the caregiver lasts for decades. Like,
Yeah.
even now, so I'm turning 50 next year, and, I'm sort of, like, looking up to women who are, like, ahead of me, who are, like, they DGAF. They are, like, free, they are ready to go. They wanna
Yeah.
work 16-hour days, right?
Yeah.
But because they are women, they don't always have that opportunity anymore,
Hmm.
which sucks,
Yeah. It does.
you
It
know?
does. I wish I had a solution. I think we all do.
Yeah.
But I do think that systems have to change, whether that's childcare, whether that's reintegration. Um, and then I do think that men have to take more responsibility, and help out more. And there's some, and I'm not saying all men. I don't want to be, a man hater because I'm not. I love men, but there's some men that really, kind of get this and step up and help out, and then there's some that sort of are approaching it how they were taught to approach it, right?
Right,
How
they're
they're
entitled.
yeah, and it's not bad. It's how we were taught, but again, it's systemic, right? Like mom's just gonna do everything. I was watching this like this meme, and this I forget the lady's name. She's like a comedian or whatever, but I follow her on Instagram, and she's like, I am the CEO of Christmas, and it's a very big job, and I personally on my own, make magic happen for everybody. Nobody helps out. Nobody does anything. I'm doing, and it's true. Like if I wasn't right now thinking about all the things for Christmas,
Oh my god. Magic making. So there's a
it
woman named
wouldn't nobody would have any fun. It wouldn't happen.
no, magic making. I
Right.
just wanna give a plug to my friend Leah Reppener, who's an academic, but she has a book coming out on mental load, and she has 8 categories of mental load that women take on, and one of them is magic making.
Yeah.
And
It's so true.
I'm 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 I am so over it. But
Yeah.
what am I doing tonight? I am taking 4 11-year-old girls to the mall to go Christmas shopping and have dinner at Cheesecake Factory
Perfect.
in to make their already entitled childhoods even better.
Yeah, no, I woke up like in a panic at 5:30 this morning because I didn't remember last night to put the elf in a new place. And I was like, "Oh shit, it's 5:30. He's going to wake up soon. I got to get the elf in the right place. God, hurry." And then, and then I've got to think of something creative,
Course.
And
Right, you can't
so
just be like our moms who, like, were like, "I don't freaking care."
yeah, like, and so like he had to have like Pokemon around him and like, I don't know. I just was like, it's 5:30 in the morning, it's whatever. I tried to be as creative as I could. But yeah, I mean, it's like, does my husband wake up in a
No,
panic about Elf? No,
no.
no.
Bless
And I
him.
don't know, he never, I mean, like, it never even occurs to him. And I do think that is women are it's wonderful that we're these people, right? Because maybe just how our hormones or bodies work, but like he thinks about other things, right? That are good to think about that I don't. But I am I'm all the things.
CEO of Christmas.
Yeah. It's a big job, man. I'm Maura, it's really big.
You know you want to start a business. What you may not know is how to make it a reality. GoDaddy Arrows got you. It uses AI to help you find the domain name that's right for you. Next, you can answer a few prompts, and with a couple clicks, Arrow will design a professional looking website or a storefront in minutes. Arrow can even help you stay engaged with your customers. Just attach a professional email that matches your domain. With GoDaddy Arrow, you can build a business without having to know a thing about this stuff. Just visit GoDaddy.com to get started. That's GoDaddy.com. Premium features require a paid subscription. See terms on site.
It's a lot. I hear
Yeah.
you. Trust
Yeah.
me. I have a spreadsheet with all the gifts and the teacher gifts and this gifts,
God,
and
the
it's like,
teacher gives.
yeah,
Oh
teacher
God.
gifts. Oh my god. Which
And
which
it's
which I mean,
yeah,
all
they
hats
need
off to
them.
teachers. If I could
Yeah.
give them $1,000,000 instead of like a stupid whatever, I would, but
Mug,
yeah.
gift card.
Um, I know. Okay, where do I want to go? I mean, we don't really have enough time to go through the rest of our categories because we're having so much fun talking.
I know.
So we can talk about the fact that most people aren't engaged at work.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? We can talk about mental health, or we could talk about spending too much time doing the wrong thing. It's your choice.
No, I mean, you choose.
No, you
What do you think
choose.
your listeners are gonna like hearing about?
I think they'll
Um,
like it all. Which one do you feel like taking on?
What was the first one?
Most people don't like their jobs. It's the first one and the last one are kind of the same, where
Yeah.
people might feel like, I'm psyched to work at Netflix. It's a great company, but like my day to day, I don't feel like I'm living to my genius, my strength, my and it makes it I mean, I think that causes a lot of burnout.
It does. But I think it goes back to like what we were talking about. Like I think people have to take a step back and really think about like what makes them happy.
Mhm.
And there's some things you have to do because you just have to do them.
Yep, that's
And that doesn't always make you happy, but generally I think when people don't like work, it's because they don't like who they're working with.
hmm, rather than what they're doing.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like,
Mhm.
look, if somebody told me I had to fold laundry all day, which I'm gonna say the F word on, but I don't want to. Um, I
You're not a laundry
effing
folding?
no, I hate folding laundry.
Me
Like
too.
it's the worst. But if I'm doing it with somebody fun, I don't mind folding the laundry.
I watch Real Housewives while I do it.
I do
It's this
too. I do too. I was folding laundry earlier today and I was watching some housewives. And that's makes it go by and it's more fun. But I think about the times like if I don't know, my mom's over and we are, she helps me fold the laundry and we're talking like, I don't care. So I don't know. I think that, job's a job. Like we all have to do them. And of course, if you could find the job that you're most passionate about, like if I could be anything, it wouldn't have been, I don't think I would have chosen CHRO, right?
Mm.
Or like I didn't know I was going to get into human resources, which I think that I wish we didn't call it that, but we do. But but I learned to love it, and there were things that I didn't like about what I had to do, right? But I think I loved my job because I loved the people that I worked with,
Yeah.
right? And they were challenging and whatever. But uh, most people leave their jobs because their boss.
Most people leave their jobs because of their boss.
Yeah.
100%. Or someone they view as toxic and
Yeah. And it's like, like a lot of people, like maybe they got into being a lawyer and they really hate being a lawyer. So don't be a lawyer anymore. Like, like, I don't know. I mean, like there are things like that that happen, but I think, most of the time you can find joy in what you do. And for me, at least, when I've found the most joy is that I'm doing it with really great people who are good humans.
yeah. So let's close on a bigger question then.
Okay.
Your podcast is called
Truth works.
Truth Works.
Yes.
What are the truths at work that we avoid and that could possibly solve some of the questions that we've been discussing today?
Well, I think we avoid the truth. I think we avoid honesty. And I don't think people are honest and clear about how they really feel about things. And I think if people were, that would be great. Like, I was talking, and this was, I don't know, a few months ago, I was talking to a founder, CEO, and they were telling me like all these things, and like I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with that, and this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and I said, okay, so there's things that yes, the people are doing, right, but like let's go talk about it and surface it. Oh, I can't do that.
Hmm.
Why not? Well, I mean, like they might quit or they might this or they might that or and I'm like, no, you're just I think our brains are like play weird tricks on us, right? And they tell us to like not do things because it's a little scary, like, oh, it's scary to give that feedback, or it's scary to say like, hey, that doesn't work, or it's scary to say like, hey, that wasn't a good agenda in that meeting, like that was terrible, like we wasted a whole hour, right? Like I think people don't want to say those things because they don't want to hurt other people. They don't want to, they're fearful that it might come back at them, or I don't know. But I think like if we just would talk about that stuff, that would unlock a lot of things. Would unlock speed. It would unlock, you know, us focusing on the wrong things and wasting time. And, I think if people know where they stand, that's a really good thing.
Clarity, right?
Clarity. Yes.
Clarity. Clarity. It's like
Yeah.
it all is coming full circle for me of because we're not clear with people because we're scared
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that if I could give any organization a gift, it's the gift of clarity.
of clarity.
Hmm. Just be really clear. And when things are clear, you can actually make decisions. You can decide you can decide if you like that. You can decide if you don't like that. You can decide what part you want to play in it. Right? Like, but when things aren't clear, like it's hard to make decisions.
Okay, so my last question is
Yeah.
how do you get clear? Because sometimes it's not that we don't want to do it. We're not clear ourselves. We don't understand our emotions. We don't understand how do you get clear personally?
That's a great question. Um, I think I think I'm good at being self-reflective and taking a step back and really getting down to what the issues are. I'm very practical. And I
Mm.
think like um I have and logical. It's like, this doesn't make sense. Like why are we doing, um or why am I doing this is terrible. So I think that there does need to be um if you want to get clarity as an individual, you need to be a bit self-reflective and you need to be self-aware. And when I think about the best executives and leaders I've ever worked with, they are that. They are self-aware
Yeah.
and they are reflective and they're learners. And so they're like, okay, that was shitty, like it didn't feel good for anybody. And let me think about that, and then they think about it and then they go and they own it and they
Hmm.
say, that was shitty. I'm sorry. Here's what I'm going to do next time. Right. And so I think, again, nobody has all the answers. Like nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But I think, when you're really reflective, you can be logical and practical and you can be self-aware and be an owner of your things, gets you pretty close to being clear.
Well, I want to thank you so much. This has been such a delight, and thank you for your insights and for solving our biggest problems at work.
Yeah, well, I haven't solved them all, and I'm still thinking about it deeply. And so I really appreciate you having me on and talking about it because it's great to talk to people that are equally passionate about it as I am. So thank you so much.
Thanks. That's it for this week's show. If you like the show, follow us and tell your friends. And please leave us a review. It really helps the anxious achiever get found by people just waiting for our content. I'm your host, Maura Aarons-Mele. Lots more to come in the next episode.